floor, and the floors of apartments above that will be the first phase. Yes, yes, yeah. It'll be 2 or 3 phases for the apartment building. Yeah. And then we're in the middle of interviewing architects for our next apartment building and hotel, which will be on the north corner of Redemption Square by the Westlake Park. And that'll be probably about 100 more units in our current property that we're under construction on. And it'll be either steel frame or concrete, so it'll be a little higher price point, but you'll get the great views. It'll probably be somewhere between 6 to 10 stories, so it'll be really nice. Thank you, sir. It's going to be a distribution facility. We're not sure. It's not a store.
Yeah, you'll be around afterwards too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you, yeah, and he'll tell you if he can't share the information with you about things coming, but he's got a lot of news. So, okay, several other people that I wanted to mention. Is Chris Odell in here right now? With the Chamber of Commerce, she does so much to make these things possible. Please just pat her on the back, and all the volunteers that we have from Chamber of Commerce, thank you for coming and doing that. And also Sam Schrade, Chris and Sam, we appreciate you all very, very much. Please give them a round of applause. Okay, so another thing that we're going to be speaking about today is, you know, one of the great communities in our area is called the Groves, and we're excited to have Mike Miller, Vice President with Ashlar Development, to come and speak with us about the Groves. Give him a round of applause, please. Oh, good to see you.
Howdy, how are we? I'm Mike Miller for Ashlar Development, and here talking about the Groves community. And I know that you guys probably haven't heard about the Groves for a little while, so wanted to give you guys a little bit of update on kind of what's transacted over the past couple of years. Formerly, the Groves was developed by Crescent Communities. Well, Crescent Communities sold all of their Texas assets, including the Groves, to a company out of Minneapolis called Castle Lake, and hence formed a subsidiary development company called Ashlar Development. So Ashlar Development is now the developer of the Groves community. We also have communities down in Austin, up in Dallas, and in Nashville, Tennessee as well. So we're a master plan community developer with about 6,000 lots between the four market areas and a little over 3,000 acres. So the Groves is obviously situated in a very unique area of the Northeast, this majestic backdrop of this wooded setting that we wanted to engage and not find a way to clear cut, but we wanted to find a way to embrace the outdoors out here. So that's been kind of the theme and mantra at the Groves is life in the woods, get outside, being connected with nature. So when we set up the community, we had a charrette, a design session that was some of the best consultants in the industry, and we come up with a brand vision and experience principles that we live by. So whenever we think of new amenities, whenever we're thinking about new sections of lots, et cetera, we always keep these experience principles at the undermining of everything that we do out here at the Groves. So here's our land plan to date. Currently right now we're about at this halfway point. This is Timber Forest Drive. Our main entry previously was Westlake Houston Parkway. And then the county came in and put in Woodland Hills Drive now, north-south down to the Beltway. And so we've got elementary school online and middle school online. I'll show some pictures of this as well. But we're about at the halfway point. When the county put this road in, I saw a real opportunity for us. So what I did is I developed this 1 mile stretch of what we call Madera Run Parkway to Woodland Hills Drive. And that now makes the Groves community the only actively selling master plan community within 5 minutes of the Beltway. So it's a major selling point for us. It's a huge access point for not only our residents, but I think the greater area as a whole. So we were very pleased to deliver that back in December of last year. So some pictures, if you've not been out to the Groves recently, this is, I believe it or not, a drainage conveyance channel. We've amenitized it into a creek we call Madera Creek. So everything we do, even down to the channels of how we get the water out of the community, we think about life in the woods and connecting with nature and how do we embrace kind of the outdoors when we design that. This is our lifestyle center. We've got full fitness facilities, indoor adult teen lounge area, outdoor play space. Even our splash pad has these wooden logs that have channels kind of dug in them, and the water flows down the wooden logs within the splash pad area. And then over to the side of the Lifestyle Center, we have our nature playground with a lot of reclaimed wood elements. We've got some outdoor foosball and ping pong table for the kids and adults to enjoy, and also our fitness center inside as well. This is our fish camp. The idea here was a kind of a northeast backwoods, kind of piney woods fish camp that you used to grow up on and fish with your father or your granddad. And so this fully stocked pond is available to residents, and Mallory over there working the slides for me, her job is to activate all these spaces. And I'll talk a little bit more about what she does out there, but what she does for us. But we have Fish Camp Fridays out here once a month typically, and residents come and enjoy this facility. And then this is our newest amenity center. This was brought on mid last year. This is called the Hearth Amenity Center, and it has our resort-style pool, an enormous pavilion that has entertainment space underneath, a barbecue grill. It has oversized picnic tables to force families to come together and sit together, and not just one family per table. And then we've got the creek down at the bottom right there. This is an overlook onto the creek, and the dock space there was designed not only passively, but we could activate it as well by having bands down on the dock, by having movies down on the dock, and so it's really been a great space. And it's called the Hearth, and you'll see in a photo here that there's a central, very large fireplace that everything's kind of centered around. So some photos of the Hearth Amenity Center. You can see the top, go back one. You can see the top right, that large hearth seating area. And so the overlook onto the creek here, some hammocks off in the woods. And then we always think about our spaces, how do we activate it at different times of day and night? And so offering some festoon lighting at the Hearth Amenity Center has been great for us. This area here is synthetic turf. This is inside the pool area, and we've got custom cornhole boards out there as well. And then, yeah, your kind of Instagram, Facebook moment with the picture frame there in the woods. This is our elementary school out at the Groves. Humble ISD spared no expense with the elementary school and the middle school out here. Just phenomenal state-of-the-art facilities. Can't speak better of what they've done for us out in this community and what they've offered our residents and beyond. And then what looks like a community college is Westlake Middle School. This is the latest addition to the Humble ISD family. It's a STEAM campus, so you got science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Believe it or not, they've got a gym for games and a gym for practices. They've got 20 soundproof studios for band and orchestra. It's just a phenomenal facility. And both of these schools are actually led by PhD educated principals. So that's another fabulous thing we've got going for us in the community. And then sandwiched in between is our kind of feel-good and Sparity Adaptive Sports Complex. This is a facility that the YMCA owns in a partnership with Humble ISD. And it offers children with disabilities the opportunity to play ball on these synthetic rubberized turf fields. And then there's a accessible playground as well in the bottom right behind there. And then this is our newest phase of Creek that we've got going on. We're continuing with the life in the woods with music moments and discovery trails and different park areas as we continue to go along the Creek design here. This is one of the pocket parks we have coming up. This is kind of a music inspirational pocket park. Believe it or not, this thing over here is actually called a chimasaur. So that was kind of neat to put in this park. This is another one of the pocket parks that we're in design. This is kind of taking the idea of a backyard and kind of putting it on a little bit of steroids and making it everyone's backyard. And then this is exploration trails, where these trails that you happen upon these different moments along the compacted dirt paths. A soccer field that we're working on for one of the areas. And then we're working on trail and education signage. We think signage is important to our residents, and so having mile markers, having down to our pet stations, how we design those. We're thoughtful in everything that we design and put within our community. And then I mentioned Mallory. Mallory's our lifestyle director. She plans 3 or 4, sometimes 5 events a week for our residents, and she's kind of our director of fun, if you will. She's got everything from toddler play dates to Groves After Dark for 21 plus, for the adults to enjoy, to field trips they're going to the Spring Wine and Cheese Trail. They're going to the casino this year. They're going to Santa's Wonderland. Field trips for the residents to go on. She's partnered with the Houston Museum of Natural Science for a space exploration kind of event. So it's one of the things that we offer that we think separates us from most other developments. And then, the tech stock guys kind of threw us under the bus a little bit here, but we've got Beltway 8 access now with that Woodland Hills connection. So that road is open now. It's a fantastic grove. We may have had some people join us for dashing through the groves. Thank you for coming out and participating in that. That was a great event. We had over 600 people, I think, out for that. And what this has done, this road opening, has opened up this little corner here that is shaded in red, and that's going to be Lake Houston's newest mixed-use development. So if you want to go to the next slide here. We don't have a whole lot to share yet. We're in the very preliminary stages. We're getting a brokerage team signed up. We're working on plans, renderings, etc. But it's going to be something special. It's going to be a lifestyle experiential neighborhood center. And we're very excited to kind of bring this to the Lake Houston area. You'll see several developments over the course of the next several months and years to come. But I can tell you that similar to setting up how the Groves was set up initially, we did the same thing. We had a canvas session with architects, landscape architects, engineers, data people, et cetera, to really kind of bring the best of the best out of all these consultants and really kind of, as the Grove set itself apart, kind of set this mixed-use development area apart as well. So very excited to kind of share that today, and stay tuned for more updates on it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. You did a great job. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Wow. You wouldn't know that from the road, would you? So we're so glad to have that. So the next guest I'm very excited about. Several of you probably remember Janice Burke from Harris County Sports Authority, that she came out several years ago a couple times and came and spoke. And Janice is, what a treasure she is for the Houston area. She was highly responsible for bringing the last Super Bowl. Also, when we have here in Humble ISD, when we have the Junior Olympics, a lot of that was because of her. You know, when you go at that back road into Turner Stadium, they built that, and about $1 million worth, including that Jumbotron, was a part of that we owe in large part to Harris County Sports Authority. So Janice is a visionary, and she is known around the world. And so when we have the Super Bowl, we think, wow, that is the biggest deal in the world. Well, it is to us. But I tell you something that's a big deal around the world is the World Cup. So I don't know how Janice did this, but she was able to hire Chris Canetti, who was the former Houston Dynamo president for 13 years, if I'm understanding, hired him to head up the 2026, he's the president of the 2026 World Cup Bid Committee. This is a big deal, and we really appreciate him coming out. Please give him a round of applause.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Don, for the opportunity to come here today and inform everybody about our efforts to bring the World Cup to Houston in 2026. So Don stole my thunder a little bit, but as Americans, we tend to think that the Super Bowl or the Final Four, perhaps even the Olympics, are the biggest sporting event on the planet. Well, the truth is that the World Cup is, in fact, the most prestigious and most popular sporting event in the world. How many of you watched the World Cup from Russia last year? Okay, so some of you did. Those of you who did, you were among 3.5 billion people from around the world who watched the World Cup last year. Half of the planet watched the World Cup from Russia last year. Okay, the final was between France and Croatia. It was on a Sunday. 1.1 billion people watched that match alone. Okay, every single match of the World Cup averaged 190 million viewers. Okay, and the reason why I'm giving you the statistics is to put it in perspective. The Super Bowl was a couple weeks ago. About 100 million people watched the Super Bowl. Okay, so the World Cup final drew a viewership around the world 10 times greater than the Super Bowl. So again, we think of the Super Bowl as the most prestigious and biggest event. In fact, I had to call out somebody on Twitter, on media, local media recently, who's talked about the Super Bowl being the biggest event. It is, in fact, the World Cup. And we have an opportunity to bring it to Houston in 2026. The World Cup is coming to North America. It's coming to Canada, Mexico, and the United States. It's been awarded. It's the first time that 3 nations will host the World Cup together all at once. There's going to be 48 nations represented in the World Cup, 80 matches played across these 3 countries. In Canada, it's already been determined that Montreal, Toronto, and Edmonton will host matches. And in Mexico, it's already been determined that Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Mexico City will host matches. What hasn't been determined is where matches will be hosted in the United States. Okay, there's going to be 10 cities ultimately selected, and right now Houston is one of 17 finalists trying to host the World Cup. So Janice brought me on board. I left the Dynamo at the end of last year, and I've been on this job, I think today's day 31, business day 31 on the job. And I have one single mission, is to win a bid for Houston to host the World Cup in 2026. It's an interesting job, to be honest with you, because there is no playbook. There's no specific do X, Y, Z, and it'll happen. We're just figuring this out as we go along. A decision will be made in approximately 2 years. So we're getting out in front of the other 16 cities. No other city has hired a position like the one that I'm filling right now, to try to be prepared. The ultimate decision is going to be made by FIFA, which is the governing body of soccer worldwide. They're the ones that put on the World Cup. And they're looking at lots of different things. And the good news is that we have a really good story to tell about Houston. And I'm sure you guys already know this story. First of all, we have a fantastic track record of hosting major marquee sporting events. The Super Bowl, the Final Four, some of those were the best. That was one of the best Super Bowls, the best Final Fours ever organized. Not just talking about the game on the field, the overtime, or the buzzer beater. The overall organization of the events in Houston were regarded as some of the best of all time. It doesn't get talked about a lot, but 2 years ago, Houston hosted what's called Copa America Centenario. It's a major soccer event that usually takes place in South America, and it was its 100th anniversary, so it was moved to the United States as a special a couple years ago. We were one of 10 cities awarded to host Copa America. We hosted 3 matches, and we were the 3rd best attended venue out of the 10 here in the United States. So we have this awesome track record of putting on major events, and that's an advantage to us. We have a fantastic stadium. All the matches will be played at NRG Stadium, right? It's one of the world-class elite stadiums of its kind. There's newer ones being built in places like Los Angeles and Atlanta and other places that are going to be a little bit better, but we still have one of the best stadiums. We have awesome infrastructure with the 2 international airports, the hotels and convention centers, the transportation, you name it. And what we also have as an advantage is the most ethnically diverse region in all of the country, right? So soccer is indeed the world's game, and it lines up perfectly with the demographic of our area, and it's part of the story that we're going to tell. That said, we're not a lock. We're not looking at ourselves as, we're a definite lock to host the World Cup in 2026. We're taking nothing for granted. So again, we're one of 17 cities. You've got New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C., Cincinnati, Nashville, Atlanta, Orlando, Miami. Dallas is a big rival for us here. Kansas City, Denver, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle. So lots of big cities in there, right? We're actually very fortunate that Chicago chose not to bid, because I think they would have been an automatic, right? You look at places like New York and L.A., probably Miami. Those cities, based on their brands, and probably even D.C. as a nation's capital, are shoo-ins, I think, to become hosts. So the list starts to get trimmed down pretty quickly. So we've got a lot of hard work to do to try to make this happen. What does it mean for Houston? I think everybody remembers the Super Bowl 2 years ago and all the talk about what the Super Bowl did for our city. It brought in 150,000 visitors. It had a regional economic net impact of $347 million to the community. There was numerous legacy projects that were left behind from the event coming here that will continue to serve the community forever. And Houston got billions and billions of worldwide impressions. So as a city, we try to grow. We're trying to grow. We're trying to become more global. The Super Bowl helped deliver lots of brand value to our city. The World Cup will do that times X. We're trying to figure out what that is, right? So think about this. The Super Bowl was one game on a Sunday with events for about a week leading up to the game. the World Cup would be 6 matches here in Houston over the course of about 30 days. So imagine 6 Super Bowls in 1 month in Houston. Okay, that's what it'll be. And again, the Super Bowl is one game, it starts and it ends. The World Cup is, as I said, is going to be 80 matches, and people will stay in our city. They're going to, we're going to have to do lots of things to entertain them, and events and activities. It's going to have a huge economic impact. Again, I can't say it's going to be 6 times what the Super Bowl was. We're definitely hiring some economists to try to put those numbers together for us. But it's going to be a real positive thing for our city if we can pull it off. And again, we've got 2 years to try to make it happen. We're hoping that we can move from being called a bid committee to being called a host committee, and we can get into organizing a Super Bowl, a World Cup for 2026. In the meantime, working on selling the story locally to business leaders, community leaders. We need to raise about $2 million to support our cause, to be able to properly put a bid forward. If we do successfully win the bid, then we're going to have to raise probably somewhere between $70 to $80 million. It's not going to come out of taxpayers' pockets. Our committee's going to have to raise it and fund it through private donations. That was the same as the Super Bowl. The state will also help out through a major events athletics trust fund that Texas has that nobody else has. So selling the story locally, trying to generate that support so that we can put the best bid forward and win. We got to tell our story externally, as I say. We've got to get to the decision makers from FIFA and show them, showcase Houston as a city and what we bring to the table. And the third thing that I'm really trying to do from my seat right now is come up with a campaign to make sure that as a community we support soccer in Houston over the course of the next 18 to 24 months. So as an example, the United States national team is coming to BBVA Compass Stadium on March 26th to play Chile. It's a Tuesday night in March. It's not the most attractive event in the world, but we need that event to be successful. Why? Because the people are looking in on Houston and saying, is it a soccer town, right? So, we're being graded. We're in a school right now, right? The report card's being written. And when soccer events like this come through Houston, whether it's an international game like this, there's the Gold Cup coming this summer. The Gold Cup is a major international tournament that takes place every 2 years. Houston was one of 2 cities that was awarded matches at 2 different stadiums. We'll have games at BBVA Compass Stadium as well as NRG Stadium. Again, people are going to be looking in and saying, how does the city support soccer? And then there's going to be a major international soccer match announced soon for NRG Stadium in late July. So there's going to be tons of soccer content this year. People are going to be looking in, need to make sure that all these events go off well. The U.S. men's national team played in Phoenix about 3 weeks ago and drew 6,000 people at a 70,000-seat NFL stadium. So that was not a good look for Phoenix. This game coming up here in March is at BBVA Compass Stadium, 20,000 seats. It's already sold far more tickets than what went on in Phoenix with 6 weeks to go. But again, we need to make sure that's successful. So if you want to know how you could perhaps play a role in helping bring the World Cup to Houston in 2026, just support soccer over the next 2 years, really. Get out to games, and again, whether it's Dynamo, Dash, international games, there's plenty of it that comes through Houston. Check it out if you haven't previously. It's an awesome experience. So that's it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the process. Yes, sir.
So it's an event that goes on, and we have this every year here, and I don't know of another city in the United States that has something quite like it.
Yeah, I agree. Look, the rodeo is an absolute treasure and an asset to our community. Probably not well known by people sitting in Geneva, where the decision's going to be made. But to there's no doubt in my mind we're going to showcase the rodeo. The rodeo is an example, in my opinion. I'm not from Houston. I grew up in Connecticut and moved here 13 years ago to come work for the Dynamo. So I have an outsider's perspective. I haven't seen a city anywhere, having been around the country in my 25 years in sports management, that comes together like Houston to make things happen. That's another asset that we have. I think the rodeo is a prime example of that. So we'll definitely be showcasing to outsiders the rodeo and the size and the scope of it as the best in the business, and showing that we can do the same in soccer. So.
Will you be around for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris is going to be around for a little bit because we've run out of time on this, so, but thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so special. That's very special. Chris, we're so glad you're here. So now, John, if you wouldn't mind coming out, John Weatherford. And so we go into this next part. John's going to be making about a 1 to 2 minute announcement about project graduation. And then anybody that wants to come up and talk for, now let me make sure I'm being clear, 15 to 30 seconds. He gets longer because he's bigger than I am, and he's going to, no, hurt. But anyway, so if you want to start coming up so you can do that, go ahead and do that. John?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to announce that we're going to have project graduation here for Summer Creek High School, and that's going to be coming up on May 25th. We're looking for sponsors. And what that is actually for the kids that go to school here that are graduating. We're going to have a lock-in the day of graduation at the main event. We've actually already rented the whole facility. They're going to be locked in. They're going to have food, drinks, and everything that main event offers. Bowling, we're going to have DJs, and so that way the kids are going to be safe the night of graduation. And we're going to provide all the food, and everything that they need is already going to be provided for them. So what we're looking for is actually sponsorship. We need money to give out. We're going to be giving scholarships. We're going to be giving computers, iPads, everything for the kids to help them for when they do graduate, when they go to college, that they'll have all of the means that they need to be successful in those areas. So we are a 501c, so anything that is given to us, whether it's money or gifts that we're looking for or anything to give away for the kids is all going to be tax deductible. So I do have some forms up here that better explains exactly what it is, and I know I'm running out of time, but if someone is interested and has any more questions, please let me know. I'll be here after the meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Project graduation, if you're not familiar with that, is a tremendous thing because it keeps the kids off the streets after their graduation when they're celebrating. So now we're going to do this part, and I'm going to give you an example. What I do in my real life, I have an Edward Jones office here in Summerwood. What I do is I help our clients retire well, save money on their taxes, and develop wealth transfer strategies. We have an office in Summerwood, and I'm opening a new one right by Cafe Ryan. Am I saying Cafe Ryan? Down here, and Garth that's over here is going to be taking over the office that I have. So next up, if we can, by the way, if I can help you in any way, I'm here to do that. So.
Good afternoon. My name is Stan Shook. I'm the owner of the Battery Plus Bulbs in Humble. Our store is located, if you went west on 1960 Bypass, got to Townsend Boulevard and looked to the right. We're right there beside McAllister's out in front of the Kroger's there. So we pride ourselves on our customer service. We want to be sure we help you find the right bulb in battery. We have everything from car batteries down to your tiny watch batteries. We also do a commercial business as well as our retail business. We'd like to help you with your bulbs, anything from a tiny specialty bulb to a large selection of LEDs we have. We also repair cell phones, replace screens, batteries, and all the small parts as well. Again, I'm Stan Shook with Battery Plus Bulbs in Humble.
Good afternoon. My name is Helene Belton, and I thank Mr. Gaddy for inviting me today. I'm here because he suggested I come. I've been unemployed for almost 7 months, unexpectedly, and I have a background in healthcare and also in education. And so if anyone is looking for a new hire, or would like to speak to me about a job opportunity, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I want to say something here about Helene. I met her and her husband, David. They were displaced from New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina.